It's because Dipti's in the building. She's the queen of puns. But you're not starting with
Very
puns.
nice.
You're not starting with puns,
No.
are you, Dipti?
I wish I were, though.
You're starting with tariffs. Of course, there's one big story, really, isn't there, today?
Yeah, that's right. After much anticipation by the US President Donald Trump himself, a lot of reaction today in the press. This is from the Daily Mirror, the British daily, also going with a pun, Stuart, that you might quite like. Trading blows, it says, noting that nations are poised now to retaliate after Donald Trump announced those tariffs hikes on all of the U.S.'s international trading partners. For Britain, for instance, 10% hike, which is actually quite low compared to the EU. The EU will see a 20% hike on most of its goods entering the U.S., much to the despair of the Belgian daily Le Soir, the paper here warning of trade wars that have really begun with this new declaration. Here in France, you have Le Figaro, which also says, also headlining on that, the trade wars. The world is under shock today after Donald Trump's announcements. The editor of the paper suggests a battery of sanctions now against U.S. tech groups as the first measure of retaliation. You also have Libération. Here in this analysis piece, the left-wing French daily says that with these tariffs, Donald Trump has massacred a system of a world trade system that's essentially been in place since the end of World War II. And it says that it will also reinforce the possibility, some might say probability, of a recession in the U.S. going forward.
Yeah, indeed, that's what a lot of the press is saying, isn't it? That we're entering a kind of new period of economic uncertainty.
Absolutely. The Wall Street Journal says that these new tariffs send a strong message that globalization, the era of globalization, is over. However, the Wall Street Journal does say that bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. is not as easy as Donald Trump may make it appear. The U.S., for instance, when it comes to manufacturing, is really geared towards advanced technology, but it doesn't have, for instance, domestic supplies of basic materials that currently are produced overseas and at a much cheaper rate. So this will be a challenge going forward. In any case, countries like China are among those who are the hardest hit by Donald Trump's tariffs. This is a reaction from the China Daily, which calls it here the U.S.'s tariff tantrum, an undersea earthquake that will create a tsunami of turbulence and trouble for the world, all in the vain hope of regaining lost preeminence, it adds sarcastically. I'm quoting there. Of course, you have this reaction from the Sydney Morning Herald. Australia, of course, will also face some hikes. Donald Trump's dumb war just got much, much dumber, pretty much saying it quite plainly there. And speaking of the Australian press, this is from an Australian cartoonist, Glenn Lievre, who sees Donald Trump as Porky Pig, signing off, saying that's not all, folks, and maybe there is more to come.
That's a very good cartoon, very clever. Let's move on to something incredibly serious. Outrage continuing over the deaths of 15 aid workers. It's from the Red Crescent. Now, the UN says they were actually executed by Israeli forces.
Yeah, that's right. And the New York Times is talking about it. In fact, the press is still talking about it. The aid workers killed in Gaza were shot multiple times. That's according to official sources. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society, of whom 8 members were killed, say the 15 bodies recovered earlier this week showed gunshot wounds. One paramedic was found bound with hands and feet bound. The paper adding that the UN, which is typically cautious about assigning blame, has openly blamed Israel on the deaths. Israeli authorities say a majority of those killed were Palestinian militants. I'll just pick up my pen there. This writer for Morning Star, a British socialist website, a left-wing website, say Palestinians have been betrayed in a world ruled by outlaws, really deploring what it sees as the lawlessness that the world is in right now. The paper reminding us also that it's been a year since the killing of 7 World Central Kitchen staff, all foreign citizens. That was last year. Israel was not sanctioned by the UN or world powers, so the website says they will just keep on killing aid workers.
Dipty needs a pen because we're going to talk about art now. This is a new David Hockney exhibition. It's said to be really one of the highlights of the Paris art scene this spring. But he's at odds with the Paris Metro authorities. I have no idea why. Tell me, Dipty.
Yeah, it's a strange one, this one, Stuart. No love lost in the City of Light between the legendary British artist David Hockney and Paris Metro authorities. The biggest exhibition dedicated to Hockney will be taking place in Paris soon at the Fondation Louis Vuitton. 400 of his works will be displayed in 11 rooms. It's the biggest exhibition dedicated to him, actually. But in the Paris Metro, you wouldn't know that it was even taking place. The reason being, the poster for the exhibition is comprised of a photograph of Hockney holding a self-portrait. And in the photograph and in the self-portrait, he's smoking a cigarette. And Paris Metro authorities say that while in the self-portrait the cigarette is okay, in the photo it's not, which is very, very French reasoning, if we can say that, Stuart. So they say they have no issue with him holding a cigarette in the painting, I guess because it's art, but in the photo it's not. Now, Hockney has famously championed cigarettes. As cigarettes fall out of favour in the world, it seems that les Gaulois are no longer welcome in Paris either.
That is just puffing mad. That's just bonkers.
It's all a bit of smoke, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Smoke and daggers, yeah, exactly. Smoke and daggers on the Paris Metro. It's a lot Dipty with the papers on France 24. A lot more news coming up.